think there are reasons for optimism that we're at an inflection point in the war in eastern Ukraine, and there is the possibility of a solution for three reasons. First of all, there's an increasing sense of exhaustion and frustration among the people who live in the separatist-controlled parts of Ukraine. Interviews both from OSCE monitors and from NGOs and media organizations indicate that at this point people are sort of willing to give a chance to any solution that provides them basic security and basic economic opportunity. The polls continue to indicate that most people, even in the separatist-controlled parts of Ukraine, prefer to remain part of Ukraine in some sort of post-war settlement. And finally, extensive traffic across the line of control between separatist and Kiev-controlled parts of Ukraine is an opportunity, I think, for the government to show what might await people in separatist-controlled Ukraine if they were to come back. The second reason I think we have grounds to be optimistic is that Russia's policy on the war has changed from, in the beginning, if you looked at Russian rhetoric and policy and actions in about the first year of the war, 2014 and early 2015, there was a lot of rhetoric about Novorossiya and this idea of a more expansive Russian-dominated or Russian-controlled part of Ukraine, all the way down to Mariupol, or sometimes even all the way down to Odessa. Russia has abandoned that rhetoric and has settled into a sort of a pragmatic policy of just enabling the separatists to keep what they've held while pursuing a solution that would probably give the separatist parts of Ukraine some sort of autonomy or federalism. The second reason Russian policy has changed, I think, is there's a declining appetite among the Russian public for foreign adventures in general, Ukraine being one, Syria being another, Venezuela maybe people talk about too, and the idea that the Kremlin is not paying attention to domestic concerns. The final reason I think we're at an inflection point and we have grounds to be guardedly optimistic is the new government in Ukraine represents Zelensky himself as a Russian-speaking Jewish Ukrainian, sort of represents that idea of a civic definition of the Ukrainian nation that's critically important to healing the wounds of the conflict. I think this government can shed the links with some of the far-right groups that have been a boon to Russian propaganda and a real liability to Ukraine. And finally, the control of parliament by Zelensky's party, Servant of the People, gives a broad mandate for reform. So for those three reasons, the attitude in the separatist regions, changing Russian policy on the war, and the new government in Ukraine, I think there are grounds to be guardedly optimistic.